Content warning, y'all. We have lots of fun making this podcast, but remember, we watch a lot of R-rated films, use language that reflects that, and joke about heavy topics to create levity around these themes. If that doesn't feel safe or could be triggering, please take care of yourself. We want you to have fun listening too. This also means we might not be suitable for children. Oh yeah, and we spoil the end of all the movies we pod about. Thanks for listening.
June 13th, that's the date. It was the beginning of the wildest case of my career. Let me tell you, my love life has never been the same, and your love life may never be the same either. Here we go.
No, just admiring the squirrels.
I don't give a fuck about squirrels.
I know you don't. You're a monster, so.
They're funny. If they do something really crazy,
Like
I
eat a
wanna know,
donut?
like eat a donut, that's pretty good.
In the snow, it was a snowstorm. Not a storm, but it was snowing.
Yeah.
And the squirrel had a whole donut.
Yeah. A whole ass donut that
in the
was
park. And it
like
was climbing.
It was like a fucking cartoon donut, too, because it was like pink icing on a...
And it climbed a fucking tree with said donut and was like holding it and was like...
Also, it arrived from somewhere with that donut. You know what I mean? Like it came across the park.
I mean, I'm assuming because it has the garbage there, it probably just grabbed it from the garbage. But still, the fact that it was like, this is my donut in the snow. Oh my God.
I do like seeing that there's a specific spot on a branch visible from the bedroom window where one little squirrel likes to perch with its tail over its back.
Oh, it's so cute.
That's adorable.
Before we moved in together, you would just send me pictures of that little squirrel all the time.
I still might.
Yeah.
So as you probably guessed, today we're talking about the Nexium / Firefest documentary called Exit to Eden. Sorry, it's not a documentary. It's a fictionalized.
Yeah.
It's a dramatization.
Telling of those. Yeah. Whoa.
We finally did it, guys.
Yeah, I was like very, very excited to watch this movie, and this has probably been the most disappointing movie for me that we've watched this whole time. And I don't mean the one I liked the least. I just mean the one that I had the highest hopes for that were totally dashed. Because I was telling you, like when I was a kid. I saw this like on TV, not from beginning to end. I saw like pieces of it on TV. So it was like heavily edited, but it seemed so serious. And I was like, oh, I thought this was supposed to be a comedy.
Right.
And so as an adult, I knew it was going to have comedic elements to it, obviously, because, you know, Rosie O'Donnell is in it. But like, I thought it was going to be like more serious, and then rewatching it I was like, this is the most slapsticky of shit. I guess this isn't surprising at all. I just didn't get any. Right, it's just like, well, I mean, like that's the grade it was at. Like it just, everything felt like, even the serious bits, I was expecting someone to slip on a banana peel because I was just like, what is happening? Yeah, I guess I just didn't get any of the humor as a kid. Weird. I mean, I also didn't get it as an adult, but I understood that I just didn't get it because it wasn't funny. I didn't think, oh, it's not funny to me, so it must be a series. You know, I was just too young to understand how bad this film actually was. I didn't read, surprisingly enough, I didn't read the trivia.
Oh, no.
Usually I read the trivia like as we're watching it. this time I was avoiding it because I just read it right before we started because I was like, I know exactly what the trivia is going to say. And turns out I was right. Everyone that did this film was like, all the trivia is just like, they want nothing to do with this film. Like Rosie O'Donnell like refused to promote it because she thought it was garbage. Dan Akroyd says it's the only movie he's made that he wishes he could forget making.
Wow.
Garry Marshall says he wishes he never directed it.
Really?
Name a movie you wish you hadn't directed.
Exit to Eden. I directed it. Was not a hit.
Who was in it?
Rosie O'Donnell and Dan Akroyd. But it was a movie about... Dana Delany was wonderful. And Stephanie Nisnik. But it was supposed to be Sharon Stone and Don Johnson, and they got afraid.
Literally, everyone fucking hates this movie. And it's just like, I mean, like, honestly, that's a thing that's like very confusing to me. I mean, I get like, I guess this is where I'm an artist and not just like commercial scum. I guess it's very confusing. Like, if you're an actor and you're acting scenes, I kind of understand, you know, like being like, wow, the edit of this is not what I thought it was going to be. But like when you're the director and you're directing it and you're like, this film is garbage. I'm like, that's your fault. You know?
Right.
You did it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I get it if it's one of those things where
it's
the
cool
studio
if
doesn't edit
like
after
yeah,
the
there's
director
tons of stuff where people are like, this isn't the movie I directed.
Right.
Like, it's really disappointing because I put a lot of time into it and it turns out it got edited really weirdly and none of it was how I would have wanted it to be. Yeah, no, I get that. But no, like, I wish I'd never made this movie. Okay, then why did you make it?
Yeah, it is a little confusing.
Yeah. Fun fact, though, you know, in the end, how Dan Aykroyd's ex-wife shows up and she's this hot, like, bombshell. That is Dan Aykroyd's wife.
Shut up.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, wow. They're married. Still married. I just checked. Yep.
That's cool. Good for him, I guess.
Yeah, that's all there is to talk about Exit to Eden, though. All right, we'll see you next time. There's so much. This is just so the plot of Exit to Eden. So this is based on. I did not know until we started watching it that it is actually based on an Anne Rice novel. I mean, it's like one of those weird because I guess she like had a bunch of. Not a bunch of, but she had like books that she released under a pen name. Oh, okay. Or like a pseudonym or whatever. I think she had, I think she had a couple different ones, which is also confusing. If I read it correctly, it seemed like it was saying like, oh yeah, you know, she had like this was released under a different name, much like her like beauty series, which was also released which was released under a different name as well. But I took it to mean like not any of the names. I don't know. It was none of the buddy cop stuff was in the Anne Rice novel. You'll be surprised to know. Sure. That was all added. I think it was just the Anne Rice novel was just about like a sex resort. Okay. And the studios like insisted on putting a buddy cop theme in there. Really?
Not Garry Marshall?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they probably were like, no, we have to do a buddy cop movie. Get Garry Marshall. He knows what he's doing in that regard. But yeah, it's really
the one scene where I think it's one of Dana Delany's characters' flashbacks. Oh God. Where you hear somebody off camera say, "I'm ready to be punished, mistress." It's clearly Garry Marshall's voice.
Oh, yes. No, it's the scene where they're trying to find out, like, where the guy is.
Oh, okay.
And it's Iman and that one dude. Uh-huh. And woo. So the movie's plot is nonsensical.
Yeah, pretty much.
It is just ridiculous. Like, and it's like,
well, here's the thing is like,
it doesn't even have to be that bad.
Yeah. And it's one of those that it just, I mean, I haven't seen it, but it reminds me of how people talk about the remake of the Stepford Wives, where
Yeah.
like the tone is just confusing. Like this
Yes.
this seems like it's
Yeah.
almost wanting to be campy, except it's not.
Yeah, it's like it is over the top,
Right.
but like in the wrong ways.
Yeah.
Like in all the like there's too much sappiness for it to be campy. Like there's not. It's just like
Yeah, it's
and
weird.
yeah, there it's like it. I couldn't even imagine this being like a cult favorite because I mean this was
Yeah.
like also really hard to get a hold of. This was not
Yeah.
easy to get a hold of
So
because
kudos to the folks who don't want it to be seen, who are in it, I guess.
yeah.
Also, the version, I found 2 different versions, both fairly poor.
Yeah.
I mean, for being the digital age,
Yeah.
fairly
Yeah,
not
they
great
looked-
quality.
They
And also, they were TV
yeah.
ratio.
Yeah. There was
Whatever
no.
is that 6:9?
Yeah, no 4:3. I
Sure,
think
whatever it is.
something like that.
It was not letterbox. It was
Yeah.
not. It was
No.
basically square,
Yeah.
which is also confusing.
Yes. I don't. Yeah.
Oh,
my
was
God.
this? Were people taping it off of television?
Yes, because remember when we started it, it said like HBO or something. Like it said something
Oh,
like
yeah.
box office
And the-
TV or
And
something.
the other version was clearly that someone had made their own DVD because it was like our feature presentation. You know, it was like one of those generic DVD menus. So
Yeah. Anyway, we purchased this movie.
somebody's got the
legally.
original 35 millimeter print. Send it on. Let's talk.
and a projector.
Yeah, well, you know, we'll cross that bridge. What?
We'll cross that bitch when we come to it.
I'm in talks with Girdler about screening it at the Decatur Public Library. Just kidding.
Yeah. Okay. The plot of the movie. It is so utterly convoluted. It makes zero sense. It honestly does feel like there's 2 movies that they're trying to make simultaneously.
Yeah, that's true.
And both of them they filmed in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Like the sex stuff is too jokey and like the cop stuff is like
But
almost
also-
too serious. You're like, this isn't.
But also, the vice versa for both. I feel like. Okay, so. Yeah, just go ahead and do the premise. There's no.
So like, okay, so it stars this guy who's an Australian who claims to not be able to say the word Martin because of the American
American R.
R, which doesn't make any sense. But anyway,
Well,
well,
just because, as an example of the American R, Martin.
well,
it's
yes,
not-
but also because he says Martin, and then he's
Just
like, it's
fine.
so hard to say
Yeah.
because of the R,
Yeah.
and I'm like, it's okay, all right.
And I said, park your car and have a yard. Martin.
So yeah, he's
He's a photojournalist.
I
No,
think he's just a photographer. He's a famous
Freelancey.
photographer that has no fear.
Combat photographer
Oh my god! And they
that we never see.
they make such a big deal about him having no fear.
LOL.
So he's trying to go to.
Really, he's just a bad
yeah.
sub.
He's a brat, is what it is.
Brat. That's the term.
Yeah. They were just like they kept being like, "Oh my god, I've never." They kept acting like they'd never encountered like a sub like that, and I'm like,
I
it's
know.
a brat. Like you're obviously
Also,
not.
he's a white man.
I know.
Cis white man. So 100% you've encountered this person. This archetype.
Anyway, so he's trying to get into this like sex club place. It's like a resort where all your fantasies can come true. I don't quite understand that whole spiel. It was a little confusing, but
Yep.
only because like if whatever. Anyway. So while he's at the airport to go to this place or something, he's at the airport. Whatever.
Uh-huh.
Iman cross-dresses on a plane
Oh, that's right.
and then strangles a woman in the bathroom who is, I believe, who's played by Garry Marshall's daughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think that's who it is. She was in this. And it was, yeah, the IMDb trivia was like, she's plays such an important role in this film. I'm like, oh my God. And then they're like, she has like most of the movies she doesn't, I don't know. I was saying something about how like she doesn't have much dialogue. They're like, but she does. They're like, but she has some dialogue in the beginning and also some later. And I'm like, oh my God.
Spoiler.
Did Garry Marshall write this?
Right.
She's so talented.
She did a really great job looking passed out on a toilet. Yes.
Also, I love this scene. So Iman like chokes her in the bathroom, and you think she's dead, but then like she wakes.
She sails away.
She wakes up in the bathroom. But like my favorite thing is, as she's waking up in the bathroom, the cleaning lady sees her and then screams in horror,
as though she's
seeing a dead body. Also, as someone who has seen multiple dead bodies, it's not something that I've never screamed. I've just been like, oh man.
Right. Also,
I'm like, this
100%
is unfortunate.
if you work as like janitorial staff in
right.
a international airport,
you've seen some
shit.
Some nasty shit. Yeah, but like I can't.
Probably some corpses.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, but that's the thing. I'm like, I don't really. I think like people. I just don't imagine anyone would scream because it's like it's always
is a
like
trope in movies.
It is
like,
a trope,
but
right.
Usually it's like you come across a body that's got blood and guts everywhere,
right?
And
Yeah.
The murder weapon is still sticking out of the body or whatever. Like
yeah. Even so,
somebody passed out on a toilet. So it's like
well, what I'm saying is like you're like. I don't think it's you go into shock, but not like in the sense of like, oh my God, not like disassociation shock. That was really hard to say. I almost said disassociation shock. It's like you see them and you're like, no, that can't be it. Like that doesn't happen in real life. People don't die in real life. This is in the movies. And then you're like, oh wait, this is real. And then it's like, you're like, oh man, like then it's like this thing where you're like, oh, did I not respond? And then it's just like this whole confusion thing. Maybe that's just my not so neurotypical brain being like, am I supposed to have a different reaction to this? I don't know. So maybe I'm not the authority on how people actually respond to things.
Well, but thank you for speaking as one. Today we have special guest, expert on coming across dead bodies.
I did the second time I found a dead body, like I was just having like a bad.
How many have there been?
Just 2.
Okay, just check.
I mean, like the first one, technically, I didn't find the dead body.
It found you.
Yes, like he stumbled in front of the car, and then when we stopped, he died afterwards. But still, he was a dead person. Anyway, so the second time, I was just leaving work casually, and there was someone, I'm assuming a homeless feller, who was asleep. I thought he was asleep, but then I was like, oh, fuck. Someone had mentioned seeing him asleep, like, literally 6 hours earlier, and I'm like, that's not shit. So, you know. But I remember I texted a friend at the time. We're not friends anymore. And she's like a therapist. And she was like, are you okay? Like, do you need to talk to someone? She's like, people can get like PTSD from stuff like this. And I was like, oh, this is not the first time. It's fine. It's just like old hat by now. I was like, he wasn't even bleeding. It's fine. Hi, I'm Zine. There's a possibility I have some trauma. You can always tell when someone has trauma when they're like, this one isn't even as bad as the last one.
Right.
I'm lucky.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway, Exit Eden. Stupid. So yeah, someone doesn't die and then they're...
Can I back up a little bit?
Yeah, please.
Rosie O'Donnell and Dan Akroyd are a couple of cops who like to go undercover. They're trying to bust some guy.
Yeah,
turns out, by accident, Shutterbug McAussie
Right, that's what I was
happens
getting
to
to.
take a picture of. Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay.
Of Iman passing what, drugs? Is that what it is? No, diamonds.
No,
To
no, he takes a picture of. Well, he doesn't. So what happens is like, she strangles the person in the bathroom, and then she goes out to get her luggage or something like that, and like, she has like diamonds or something that she puts in the luggage, and then it goes through, and then someone from the airport staff,
right.
like, is like how the exchange is supposed to go is there's like while it's on the conveyor belt, like it goes through, and then comes, and like when it goes like whatever, I don't know I don't know how to describe it, but like it goes on the conveyor belt, and then someone in the back grabs the diamonds, or the thing that she has the diamonds in, and then she grabs the bag. This is also, anyway. So while he's there, like hanging out with her and like trying to flirt with her and take her picture, and she's like, "Fuck off."
Yeah.
So he takes her picture, but then when she grabs, like when like the bag he tries to help her get the bag, and she's like, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." And then he like, it goes back behind. I don't know what's the thing in the back where the staff are. I don't know what that's called.
Oh, I don't know what the official name is. It just goes through that little,
the
the little curtain where it disappears.
Yeah. And so he tries to like climb back behind there, which like, why would you do that? And so security runs over.
He's like, "Oh, you missed your bag."
No, I know.
So he's
but
trying
I'm
to
saying
help
no. I'm saying like, why would someone climb behind there?
Because white men.
Well, okay, that's fair. But then he sees someone, like he sees the dude grabbing the stuff out of her bag, and he's like, "Oh, what's that?" And then he takes the guy's picture a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, those images are not going to, because he's not even looking through the peephole. He's just like randomly taking pictures. I don't know how to break it to you, but they're not going to come through.
He's a combat photographer. He's done this a million times, and he has no fear.
And then
he's like Siegfried.
And then like the bag just comes through. There's so many things, but so the guy that grabs the diamonds and then picks up Iman in a car.
Yep.
Why didn't she just take her bag and leave? Why'd she put the diamonds in the bag, have him grab them off the conveyor belt, and get in the car and then leave together? That makes zero fucking sense.
Not only that, like the whole thing with the bag is like one of the things that tips off the photographer is that it's empty. It comes out from the back as though it's coming off a plane, right?
Yeah.
But it's empty so that she can put stuff in it and put it back on the belt to go back behind. Yeah. That's a good question.
Oh, none of it makes any fucking sense.
I don't know. Maybe that's a way to get through security.
But she wouldn't be going through security. Also, it's the diamonds are in her diaphragm case.
Oh,
so like he opens the case. It's a diaphragm. He picks up the diaphragm and then, remember diaphragms? Remember how the 80s,
only in concept.
The 80s and early 90s movies loved to reference diaphragms.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's one thing about this movie that, like, I think why it doesn't work is it's too late. It's from 1994.
Yeah,
like,
right.
The kind of comedy that I think it's trying to be, especially with Garry Marshall at the helm, maybe would have worked in, like, the early 80s or late 70s.
Right,
you know what I mean?
yeah. It's so...
Like this kinky sex club.
I think in some ways I did feel like, I mean, this is probably the Anne Rice stuff, but I'm like, in some ways they did get S&M more correct than I'd seen it in a lot of stuff, which I was like, oh, this is encouraging. And in a lot of ways, it was just terrible. Like, the boundaries stuff, like, none of that is realistic. I mean, like, whatever. Anyway, so Rosie O'Donnell and Dan Akroyd are trying to get, like, also the scene in the strip club.
Our main character, I don't remember his fucking name, has already booked his time.
Elliot, I think, in the movie.
Maybe.
Something like that.
Has already booked his visit to this BDSM island called Eden before all these events transpire.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Iman and her partner.
Hector Elizondo plays the guy that interviews him in the very beginning.
Owns
he
the
like
island, right? So Iman and her partner figure this out. So right? Or are they going there for somebody else?
No, they're going for him.
Okay.
But I don't know how they figure it out. Like none of it makes. I don't understand. Like a lot of this movie feels like they just like.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Yeah, it was like I almost wish they didn't have any sort of explanation for anything because the shitty ways they do explain stuff, I'm like, this is even more confusing than if they were just like, we went through his things and found a ticket here, so we're following him. Right. Why not just say that? Why are they like going around and like threatening people with knives and shit and trying to... I'm like, what are you talking about?
Remember in the beginning how Rosie O'Donnell shoots at a guy in a wheelchair?
Yes. That's what I was going to say. That whole scene in the beginning, too, because the old guy is like has an oxygen tank and he trades it out and then they...
Put diamonds in it?
Or something? I don't even understand. It was like they had the... I don't know. Like, it didn't make any sense. I was very confused. And... I didn't know why. And also, like, I'm so like this is such a pet peeve that probably is like nonsensical, but I always hate whenever they have like quote unquote like masterminds that they're trying to get a hold of, and like they're like, oh, they're so elusive, and they're literally like in the next room, and they're like, I don't know how we missed them, or like they're like, oh, they somehow managed to get away, and I'm like, that's on you though, like I don't
by that much.
But it's like, also, if they were like such criminal masterminds, they wouldn't be there themselves. They would have people.
They're probably in a different country.
Yeah, they would have people working.
They're probably
for
on
them.
a yacht.
Yeah, yacht.
Oh, sorry. I always pronounce that wrong.
I know. So yeah.
Point being, it's all just a reason to get everybody on this island, where Iman and dude are trying to kill. Or at least get the film from guy.
Yeah, because they're trying to get the film because he has a picture of this guy who is they're like, he's the guy that they're trying, that Dan Akroyd and Rosie O'Donnell have been after for so long. But he's literally right there. He's the one doing all of this stuff, which doesn't make any sense if he's like such a mastermind, why he would be doing all the footwork. And like... Again, those images are not going to be clear. Like you have.
Yeah. Anyway, so Iman and Guy are there after photographer. Mm-hmm. Rosie and Dan are there after Iman and. Also,
let me just say, like in the beginning, when, like, I hated this. I didn't like. Okay, Rosie O'Donnell, like they have the whole, like, she's pretending to be a stripper, which is, like, problematic only because, like, the joke is that, like, fat girls can't strip, or, like, and they have her, like, try to pole dance or whatever, and it's, like, she's not good at it. I mean, first of all, you wouldn't be good at it. Like, it doesn't matter what size you are. If you've never been on a pole, you're gonna suck. End of story. Like, there's no getting around that. You don't magically have, like, instincts to pole dance. Like, you have to really... learn how. It does not matter what size you are. Second of all, I've seen fat girls on a pole. They can do it just fine.
100%.
Please stop with that.
Like all the shots that go on for far too long of her dancing.
Oh God, I hate how she has the boa around her neck.
Yeah, she's just covering herself. She's not trying, but also she's not dancing. She's just kind of standing there and flipping the boa. But it's not funny. I mean, like. It's not funny enough to justify the length of the shots. It's not like.
But also, I hate it.
That's the thing. It's not slapsticky until it gets to the pole.
Yeah.
It's not her like being awkward and
or
falling.
or like doing it like thinking she's being sexy and being like very weird, and that would kind of be funny.
Do you remember that?
No, but like what I don't like. So, to me, it's not funny. You'll find this surprising that I don't find humor in this. It's not really funny when women are put in any kind of sexual situation that makes them extremely uncomfortable.
To me, that is innately humorous.
But like, it's also usually uncomfortable because you're like never like I'm always like, is this something where the scene requires them to pretend they're uncomfortable, or are they so uncomfortable they're unable to act any other way? So that's the one reason that I don't enjoy that, because I'm like, I literally don't believe that Rosie O'Donnell is a good enough actress to act that uncomfortable. And I don't mean that to insult her. I mean, like, I don't think anybody's so good that they literally look like they wish they weren't there. Like, and I mean, and knowing, like, there was like trivia that was talking about like how like they reshot some scenes, so like Rosie O'Donnell is like noticeably like larger in some scenes than others, which I was like, okay, I didn't notice. I didn't see it, didn't care.
I mean, I definitely
also honestly
she's wearing a lot more restrictive clothing at different times.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I'm like, I say this not because I'm like I'm not like it's fine because, but I mean, like, for it to be like a joke. Like, I'm like, she actually looks really good. Like, I thought her body looked really hot in those outfits. I'm like, it's not funny to me. I mean, I don't think, like, I'm not saying, like, it'd be funny if she looked bad. But, like, it wasn't like she didn't know how to put it on, so it was, like, backwards or something. And she was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. That might be kind of funny, where she's just, like, not used to the gear. So she's like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Haha, that's funny. No, the joke is that she's so fat, lingerie is not going to look good on her. I don't know. Have you ever seen a fat girl in lingerie? They don't look bad in it.
Right.
That's why they make lingerie for fat women. Because people want to see it. Yeah. Like, it's not. Ugh. It just, like, also, like, that. I mean, that brand of, like. And also, like, yeah. But the like. And I'm not saying just to make it clear, I'm not saying like it's okay to be fat if you're attractive or something. Like, it's fine to be fat as long as you're being sexualized. That's not what I'm saying. I just mean, like, the joke being that like the joke is fat girl in lingerie. It's like, that's not.
Yeah, I would say that there was less of that than I expected.
Yes, but I felt like
where it starts.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But
I feel like the stripper scene was so. That was the whole joke, was that she was in lingerie and awkward, and I'm like,
yeah.
I don't.
Well, I mean, I thought the joke was that I thought the joke was supposed to be that she was in skimpy clothes but not wanting to show her body. Ironic
tell.
because she's dancing, right?
Right.
But I think there's stuff that's supposed to be funny because. Mm-hmm. Fat girl.
Yeah.
But that if you weren't looking for that, you wouldn't know that it's there.
Yeah.
So in that way, I think it's
it's
aged out of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you weren't used to that trope.
Right.
In film and TV, you may not see it there. So that's.
You mean like if you weren't so used to it, you were bored with it, you wouldn't notice anything else? Is that what you're saying? Sorry. I just want to make sure I'm catching. No, okay.
If you didn't know it was a trope, like if you weren't expecting that to be the gag.
Oh, I see.
I don't think you would see the jokes that are meant to, where that's the punchline. I think you might not just know. You might not see them. Does that make sense? Like, they would just fly under your radar or over your head or whatever because.
Oh, like in the like jokes that are supposed.
It's so implicit. You know what I mean? I think.
Wait, what is? I'm so sorry. The fat jokes are implicit?
Yeah, some of them.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to make sure that
I mean, because they're not even actually jokes. I think that's the thing.
I mean, they never are, really.
Yeah.
Fat jokes are always like, I don't have enough ability to write something funny.
Like, it feels like I'm supposed to be already laughing because Rosie O'Donnell is on the screen and in a certain kind of outfit. Like, it feels like this movie expects that that's the framing around everything.
Oh, yeah.
So when that either like I see that and it's not funny to me, or I'm not understanding that.
Yeah, right. It's Ugh. But that, it was really.
So in one way, it doesn't go hard. It's not explicit enough.
Yeah.
For those jokes to quote land.
Oh, right. No, they don't
like
land
they
at all.
Be funny.
No,
they wouldn't be funny.
No, they would. Yeah. But they,
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think so. I think I think I'm following what you're.
I'm in no way defending.
No. I don't think you are. I think what you're. Yeah.
I just can imagine like a younger audience if you're watching this.
Yeah.
Right. And you didn't grow up.
Right.
Saturated with boomer media.
Right.
Boomer produced media.
Right.
Like me. You may not read those.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
That subtext.
I see what you mean.
A lot of people feel a little nervous about this whole submissive dominant thing at first, but really the submissive person is always in control. All you have to do is give your partner a little control word, like yellow.
Yellow. Yellow! Fred!
Something else my mom was right about. Something else.
For once. Something else. Does your mom have any takes on Exit to Eden?
No. No, we paused because I was talking about this movie and I looked in my coffee mug and I was almost out of coffee and we drank it all. So I was like, I can't even. So we had to pause so I could make more coffee because I was like, I can't go on talking about this movie without a giant mug of coffee.
We've barely gone into it.
Like,
despite having talked for. In typical fashion, this will probably be a lengthy one.
I don't know though, because we've talked about like truly the most convoluted bits of the plot we've already gone over. Like basically after they discover that Elliot is going to the place, then they all just show up there, and then it's all just like them being like, how do we organically run into this guy? And it's like, that doesn't make any sense. And then it's like, and then it switches gears to like, so the club is run by Dana Delany, who plays someone named Lisa, I think.
She Lisa or is she Sheila?
No, she's Lisa.
Okay.
Sheila is the blonde girl that that isn't gay with her.
Or
like,
is so, like it's really
no. Good. It was so weird. I mean, like whatever, but it was
her
just
valet.
So, yeah, it was so weird.
Her confidant.
Because it always seemed like she was like annoyed when she was like teetering on. She was like, "You like Elliot," and then she'd be like, "Maybe I do," and she'd be like, ugh. Like it always there was like always a ugh vibe going on, and which I mean I would feel the same way.
It just sounds like polyamory. Zing.
Tested positive for being a little stinker.
Tested positive.
I think that's what it says. Anyway. But yeah, like there's a stupid love story between Elliot and Lisa, and it doesn't make any sense because like he shows up and is immediately a brat and is disobeying everything that everyone says and getting in trouble and like totally getting off on it. Weird, almost like how a brat behaves. Sorry, for anyone who's unfamiliar with.
You want to define that term a little?
A brat is basically, so there's like dominant and then submissive, like in the specific, like, you know, BDSM sort of like thing. You have dominants, you have submissives, you have switches, which are people that enjoy both sides of that. But a brat is specifically someone who does things to get the punishments. Like I think a lot of people are like I shouldn't say a lot of people. I think some people mistakenly believe that that's what BDSM is like you do things and you get punished for them, but like so you have agreed upon
there's
things.
Some popular culture that has helped muddy those waters.
Correct. And it's more about ways that you agree to play or agree to, you know, and it varies for everyone. And if anyone says this is how a dominant always acts, if anyone says this is how a submissive always acts, that's a big red flag. That's not like everyone acts differently. Everyone has different comfort levels. If someone's telling you you're doing it wrong, other than if you're like, if someone's saying, wow, your behavior is really problematic and borders on abusive. That's something to listen to. But if someone's like, you're a bad submissive because you don't listen to everything I say when I say it and you want to have discussions about things, they're terrible. Dominant. Right. Just, you can blanket statement some things. But anyway, so a brat is basically just someone who purposely, like, you'll come up with like arrangements like, okay, you're not going to do X, Y, Z. And instead of adhering to that, like they don't enjoy, they might, but like they don't always enjoy adhering to the rules or get excited over having rules. They get excited over breaking them, specifically to receive punishments. Right. So a brat will go out of their way to get punishments. They're not just satisfied with the punishments you agree on. They want extra. Which is how Elliot is. And
which is established like in the first scene.
Exactly. Like it's literally like him as a kid, like purposely like doing something so that he'll get spanked by his super attractive and very low cut dressed, giant breasted nanny.
Au pair or whatever.
Yeah. It was, you know, and like whatever, like it's just very confusing. But also, like, he's getting spanked, and they're showing it as a kid. It's a very strange scene, but he's getting spanked as a kid. He did something on purpose to get in trouble. He gets spanked, and he's like, ow, no. But you see his face, and he's like, no, this hurts. And he's smiling. Mm-hmm. So he's pretending he doesn't like it, but he's really enjoying it. But then later, they have this scene where, like, Dana Delaney's like, have you ever been spanked before? And he's like, no. And it's like he's never even entertained the idea that he might enjoy spanking. And I'm like, that directly goes against.
Oh, I thought it was pretty clear that he didn't want to admit to it. Like,
well, yeah.
Including his, the interview he does with Hector Elizondo for his application to the Eden.
Right. I don't know. The way that they go about his whole, like, you're fearless and you want to do anything and you're looking to explore, while simultaneously he withholds a lot of very personal, pertinent information because he doesn't want to, like, admit to, like, being a little freak or whatever. Mm-hmm. No, he would not have his application would not be accepted. They'd be like, I'm sorry if you've, because he specifically doesn't list any sexual, like, fantasies or interests. And when they ask him, he won't tell them. No, they would be like, no, we cannot guarantee that he's not going to go around, like, hitting women or some shit. They would not feel safe with that. There's no way. And, like, this is a way that, like, I think BDSM gets, like, portrayed that is, like, really problematic, is that they don't, I feel like I have a hair in my shirt that's just tickling my, and I'm just like, ugh. So it just, like, there seems to be, like, no real understanding of, like, boundaries that ever get, that's always something that fails to get explained in any sort of BDSM.
Well, I will say that, like, at least there's the attempt with the fact that this is a resort and it's remote. And
I think the implication is because they have, like, people who come to the island who are submissives.
Right.
And then they have people who come to the island that are dominant. And it's seemingly people who have never experienced either.
Yeah, right. Except for the return.
Right. Yeah. There's some return customers. It's mostly the submissives, though, which is, I think, an interesting thing.
Yeah.
And I don't really, I mean, like, I think this stuff that I enjoy, the stuff I feel like it got right was that I feel like I have to sneeze, but I feel also like it's not going to happen, so I'm just going to make it. Anyway. So I feel like it does explain that the people who are submissive really enjoy it. And like this scene, like, where the guy that gets assigned to Rosie O'Donnell, how he's constantly, like, begging her to, like, use him, which is, I think it's sweet because he's, like, truly just like, please, like, do anything you want. I'm so happy to just, like, serve you in any way. It was sweet because they didn't make it didn't seem like it was, I don't know how to put, it didn't, I mean, like, I'm not saying it didn't do this at all, but it didn't seem to go hard on the, like, oh, he's so emasculated by doing this. Oh, what a pathetic human that gets off on this stuff. I do feel like there was a little bit of, like, this is always the case in, like, weird sort of, like, where it's, like, the implication that, like, to do this, you can't also lead a normal life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's not, whatever you do sexually.
But then he turns out to be a CEO.
No, I know. No. What I'm saying is, like, how, like, Dana Delany and, like, the dude, she's like, let's
just do this full time.
Yeah, and
is that what you mean?
Yeah, and it's like, what are you talking? Like, what? And, like, the implication is that she would, like, give up her job as a dominant and, like, become a wife, and then, like, only, like, and, like, become, like, monogamous with him, like. I'm like, that's not how you enter a relationship with someone that's, like, that's a sex worker. Like that.
Yeah.
Now that you've met a man, you can give up sex work. No, that's okay. She's actually extremely successful at doing this, and
she explicitly says, "I like this. This is a good job.
Yeah.
I make great money."
And he's like, "Oh," and they're like, "Oh."
Also, it's not entirely made clear. Like, I mean, it's clear from their initial relationship that it's not extraordinary that this would happen, but it's not. She's like the mistress of the island,
right?
She's not necessarily, like she's not going to take on a client just because they ask,
right?
She's not one of the.
Right, she's not. She's basically trains people on how to be dominant.
Yeah. That's the other thing is that you get these scenes of like these workshops.
I know, where no one's doing anything at all.
Correct. And it's also unclear.
Okay, sorry. You can finish that thought. I just got frustrated because you remember Reba in it? Who's the sweet, submissive girl who's like so happy to be back and everyone's just like, shut up, Reba.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is everybody shitting on Reba?
Yeah, I know.
And like, it isn't a thing where like, they're like, oh, Reba really enjoys getting, like, humiliated. So, like, it's a thing we all do because she's, like, our return customer. So we, like, just tell her to shut up and we do all this stuff because she likes it. No, she's always, like, really disappointed and, like, sad when they're like, shut up, Reba. I'm like, no, this is.
Yeah, that was unclear. Is the joke
it was
that
so
she's
weird.
An airhead or something?
Right. But she's, like, and he would be like, I don't understand what's going on. And she'd be like, oh, XYZ's happening. And they'd be like, shut up, Reba. And I'm like, but he explicitly, like, you do not, and this is something across the board in all BDSM, there should be never a case where you're going into a situation that you've not agreed to go into.
Yeah.
So if someone has a question,
the rules.
If someone has a question, if someone doesn't know what's going on and you are not filling them in, you are bad at what you are doing.
Yeah.
Period. Like, you have to be clear and like
he constantly acts like he doesn't know what's going on.
I know,
and he kind of just Sterling Archers it, right? Like he was like, I didn't read the dossier. I'll just wing it. Everything works out for me in the end.
Right. And then like it's so weird though, and this is like so there was like a scene that I really enjoy. Well, I shouldn't say I really enjoy. I mean, like it was. I feel like it was the only scene that actually showed like a power exchange. That made sense in a I don't know,
negotiated BDSM.
Well, sort
context?
of. So when Lisa and Sheila are in the pool, and Elliot is there, and they're having him sit there with his back to them while they're naked. So they're swimming naked in the pool. He's not allowed to look at them. Beautiful. That's a beautiful like. Dominant, sort of submissive, not a sexual thing. It's a power thing. I have, like I'm naked and you want to look at me. I'm not allowing you to look at me, but I am naked. Love it. That's beautiful. He keeps sneaking and they're like, no. So, he's being a brat. So Dana Delany is like, I need a chair. I want to sit down. And so he like brings a chair over and she's like, no, get on your hands and knees. You're the chair. Again, I'm like, this is lovely. This is absolutely lovely. Like, she has a robe on. She's not nude. So he gets on his hands and knees, and she lifts up her robe and sits her ass on him and is like, you get to feel what you're not allowed to see. And I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. This is amazing. Because it's such a power exchange. And again, it's not doing anything. It's not really even sexual. I mean, you could be like, oh, her ass. But really, I mean, it's just literally she's using him as a chair. And he's like, he can't like look back and see her ass when she's sitting on him. Like, all of this stuff, like the way it's done, like he really can't see her. And I was like, oh, this is real. I was like, oh my God, maybe this movie's going to do it right. And then it just all goes downhill from there.
I bet that part is taken directly from the book.
I was going to say, I wonder if that was like actually taken from the book.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If the gender roles were reversed, you know, if it were something like secretary.
Yeah.
It would be like we just watched Secretary recently.
Yeah,
I'd only seen it once before.
I've seen it so many times.
And you know, I think it's got its issues.
Yeah,
to be
totally.
But like, I was just thinking, Exit to Eden would be maybe more interesting if they continue to along that line where like he shows up, he's a brat, you know, he catches Dana Lisa's eye, and she sort of takes him on,
right,
to train him.
Yeah, to be a better submissive.
But that's not what happens.
Right.
Like, he doesn't really get better.
He doesn't get better.
He breaks boundaries.
And
then she's just like, oh, I'm in love with you, I guess.
Also, there's a scene where, and again, not much happens in the movie. Like, once, like, the first, like, beginning of it where, like, there's the airport and, like, the diamonds and the strip club scene and, like, all this stuff. That happens in the first, like, 15 minutes of the movie. Fine. But that's, like, a lot of stuff happening. And then the rest of it is all of them trying to get to the island. So that's, like, a half an hour of them, like, working towards, or maybe not quite that long, but like it's a lot of time of them working to get to the island. Then once they get here, or once they get to the island, it's all just like mostly concentrate, like the story is mostly concentrated around Elliot and Lisa being like, ooh la la, ooh, we like each other. We're adults in a sexual fantasy island and we can't act on it because, oh my God, that's so weird, LOL. No, like it's so like, and it's just like such juvenile like back and forth between them. And I feel like I understand her hesitancy, but like his pushiness, in my opinion, would make her not interested in him. As someone who's dominant, like you would not want someone who doesn't listen to your boundaries, who doesn't like, you wouldn't be attracted to that because it goes against your entire fucking lifestyle. And like,
but also, and then also you get the shit where it's like, oh, you get her backstory, her root.
Oh God, I don't understand.
And like,
her
what?
Dad, the scene, the flashback with her being like, Dad, are you going to be okay? And he's like, bye, your cab's here.
What?
And she's like, Dad, Mom just died. The funeral was yesterday. Are you going to be okay? And he's just like, can you leave already?
He's already like,
and he literally just like walks away from her and she's like, Dad. And I'm like, what the fuck is this shit?
I forgot about that.
And it doesn't make any sense
on
because, first of all, and like this is another thing that I fucking hate. I fucking hate this whole thing because it's really unhealthy in my opinion to portray S&M in a sense where if you're submissive, then you are like less than a dominant.
Right.
And like they keep doing this thing where like Dana Delany refers to herself as being a victim for like a really long time. Like she like is interested in BDSM and she's like, I'm a victim. I was a victim for so long. And then once she discovers that there's a place for like dominance, she's like, I'll never be a victim again. And I'm like, no.
Right.
Being a sub is not being a fucking victim. Being a sub is just as empowering as being a dominant. It's about what you are empowered by.
When done correctly.
Yeah, right, correct. And like if you're, if you don't feel good being a submissive, then don't do it. Like, you don't have to do it. And but also you probably have a bad dominant. And it's like there's not and abuse is not BDSM ever. If someone's being abusive and shrouding it under the title of BDSM, incorrect. It's not BDSM. They're lying. They're full of shit. It's not BDSM. If it's abusive, it is not BDSM. End of story. There's no discussion about it. If there's like tons of stuff, I mean, like people get weirded out by like BDSM and like, whatever. But like, there's so much, I mean, there's like, I think the thing that people don't understand, a thing that people can misunderstand about BDSM is that like things are negotiated. Things should always be negotiated, and you know what you like, and this is
never this is why it's problematic in popular culture, is that's never shown. Or hardly ever. And definitely not to the degree that it should be done.
Right. Or if it's like in like 50 Shades where like the negotiation is just him being like, I want to anally fist you, and her being like, that'll never happen. And then that's it. And like the worst thing they can, like the most like when he like, she's like, show me how bad it can get. Show me like the worst thing you'll ever do. And he just like spanks her with a belt. And she's like, oh my God, you're a monster. I'm like, what the fuck? None of this is BDSM. It's just someone, if someone's pissed off and taking out their aggression on their partner, it's not BDSM.
Well, doesn't he eventually say that?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, it still even though
2 movies in or something.
Yeah, no, yeah. Like in the second movie, I think in the second book, I don't know which book because I haven't read them, because I tried to read the first one of 50 Shades, and it is painful. And I'm not trying to like shit on people that enjoy it, but oof, my inner goddess was not present for reading that because I don't have one. Anyway, so there's a scene where Elliot is doing his absolute best to not adhere to any S&M rules or boundaries set up. And he asks Dana Delany, because he's like, I don't know anything about you. What's your last name? How is that gonna, I'm sorry, knowing my fucking legal name is going to let you know me? How?
Yeah.
That has nothing, it's nothing.
And then she tells him in a moment.
No. First of all, she's like, I'm not going to tell you. And then he, like, sleeps next to her bed, which is kind of sweet. I'm into that. He, like, gets on the floor, he sleeps next to her bed, and then he wakes her up in the middle of the night to go down on her, which is surprising somehow as a dom for someone to please you.
Mm-hmm.
And not need anything in return. Again, okay. And then after she, I guess, climaxes, who knows? Like, I love how
you never can tell.
Oh God.
In movies, especially.
I know, it's always like,
unless it's showgirls.
And that's how a woman orgasms in a film. But anyway, she's like, my last name is something stupid.
Emerson.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Okay. And you and I both went, ugh, boo. We were like so pissed. I was like, you're a bad dom.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you're not doing, like.
Also, like, clearly you're not a good dom if that's the first time anybody's made you come.
Right. You might actually be bad at your job. I love what I do, and I'm really good at it.
You're bad at sex. I'm good at sex.
Also, I just have to say, Rosie O'Donnell's humor in this movie was so painfully out of place. The Gilligan's Island shit that she was doing, and the stuff where, like, first of all,
do you think that was her, like, improving?
Oh yeah, I do actually. Well, maybe not improving, but I feel like she was putting her brain. I meant to look up Rosie O'Donnell's like poetry that she used to write.
Pardon?
After her show like went off the air, she has like a website or whatever, and she would just like post like poetry and things that she would write that are not. Anyway, it's
not intentionally humorous.
They're not humorous, but they're also like, you know, white feminist woman kind of poetry. It's just not like it was a, you know, like Bush as president kind of shit. Just, you know, not anyway. I just remember being like, oh God, it's painful.
And then a few hours later, O'Donnell says that she was in pain. So I'm going to read a bit of this poem that you referred to. She said, I had an ache in my chest. Both my arms were sore. I became nauseous. My skin was very clammy. I was very, very hot, and I threw up. She then Googled, I think she had a clue what was going on because she then Googled the signs of a heart attack for women.
That was before Twitter, I imagine.
I think so, yeah.
Because now she's all over Twitter.
Yeah, their weird connection, it doesn't make any sense. They don't really have any chemistry. Dana Delany or Lisa and Elliot or whatever, they don't really have such great chemistry. No. She just seems uncomfortable around him a lot, which I'm like, that should be a red flag. That shouldn't be something that makes you ignore all the boundaries you have set up around your life. I understand. I think it's important to, like, sometimes people have boundaries that don't serve them. You know,
say that again.
Sometimes people have boundaries that don't serve them.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's important to assess your boundaries and where they are, why they're there. Yeah. Totally fine. Yeah. But ignoring them all and throwing them out the window because you met a guy?
Or finding yourself into someone who is constantly pushing them?
Correct. These are signs that you either don't have boundaries or you have bad ones. So, yeah, and then the rest of it is just like Iman trying to strangle people with Mardi Gras beads.
Hot.
And then the weird scene where like she and Rosie O'Donnell are in a fight. And like they're like humping each other. That was not
Doesn't work.
That was not funny.
It's supposed to be humorous because Dan Akroyd walks
in and doesn't understand.
Like, well, excuse me.
Because he doesn't understand the difference between fighting but I'm like, it doesn't make any sense because what would make more sense is if like one of them was in a chair and getting slapped by the other one. You'd be like, oh, I didn't mean to interrupt. That would be like, oh, haha, you don't know because it's an S&M. But no, it's like
never mind that they're both on the island as doms.
No. Oh, Iman, and Rosie.
Yeah.
But I like that Dan Akroyd is like so. I think something that's kind of funny is his character in the movie is like completely disgusted and grossed out by
he's prudish.
Yeah, he's a prude that but like Rosie O'Donnell keeps talking about like how she's like on her period or whatever just to gross him out, which I think is funny.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
She's like, I have a very heavy flow, I clot. And I was like, girl, same.
That's pretty good.
And he's like, I can't hear this. But he's so weird. He's like, he is, and I think this is like smart on their. I think this was like a thing that like made sense, and I'm glad they did this. Where he was like, I'm not going to be able to
participate
to do that. Like, I would not be able. So he went as he's just playing like
a maintenance person.
Yeah, like a technician there, which I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like that they're
except that the way they set it up is when they're getting gear.
Oh yeah.
At a shop. And he comes out head to toe in leather.
Oh, he does?
And they're like, I'll be the maintenance guy.
Oh, okay. That's so weird.
Yeah, you don't remember that?
I don't remember that.
With the mask and just head to toe, like fully covered.
I literally have no recollection of that.
Well, lucky you.
I know. But I think I'm glad they did that as opposed to like making it humorous to like make him uncomfortable in sexual situations because again, not funny. Like it doesn't, and I said earlier that it's not funny when like women are in situations where they're uncomfortable. It's not funny with anyone, like especially in a sexual sense. It's not funny at all.
Amen.
You know, it doesn't matter what your gender is. It's not funny to make a joke out of someone being uncomfortable in a sexual situation. It's just, there's no need for it.
No, I mean, it's funny in 9 to 5 when the shitty misogynistic boss is kidnapped and held and bound and cut off from all contact against his will. I mean, it's pretty funny.
I think that's funny, yeah. It's a good movie, so anyway,
I was being sarcastic.
I know.
Just for the audience.
But I like the fact that throughout the movie, he's just like, I have to think of anything. Because he's just like, body parts are around me all the time. I have to do whatever I can not to think about it. I can't think about it. You know, he's just like so.
Yeah.
And I think it's like the implication is that like it actually does end up awakening something in him. And he ends up getting back together with his wife. My favorite part, though, was when he had his bag at the end and it starts vibrating.
Oh, yeah.
And Rosie O'Donnell's like, oh, my God. He's like, nothing. That's nothing. And it's a fucking Hitachi. And she's like, you got a vibrator. And he's like, God, they had a discount for employees.
Yeah, that was great.
I was like, oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
I like it because the implication was he got it for his partner.
Right.
And that...
I think he says that.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying he got it for his partner. And despite the fact that he's uncomfortable with that, he put his partner's pleasure above anything that, like, he's not uncomfortable. I mean, he's uncomfortable with making a public display of it, but he's not uncomfortable with making his partner feel good. And I was like,
did you
oh,
see that ludicrous display last night? Also, I like that they call it a vibrator and it wasn't phallic.
Oh,
it wasn't
yeah,
a dildo.
yeah. That I did. I was like, oh, yeah. It's because like a Hitachi has a purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying you can't use it for.
Well, and you
It's
could
not-
argue it's phallic, but it's not designed
it's not
for insertion.
penetrative. Yeah. So like any gender can use a Hitachi.
Thanks.
If they want. But yeah, it's not.
Any gender can use a dildo if they want.
I know. But I'm saying it's not phallic, but it's not insertable. I'm saying like just because it's not insertable doesn't mean it's made for quote unquote women. I'm saying like it's designed for anyone, for any body parts. But anyway. Yeah. I don't think Dana Delany is a good dom.
Clearly
also,
not.
the fact that he like literally so like they're together, like it seems like they're together for like 2 days, and then they run away together. Then Dana
to New Orleans.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, so there's this scene where Dana Delany is constantly like, I never want to be a victim again. I'll never be a victim again. And first of all, I'm like, a victim to who? I don't quite understand what you're fucking talking about. Like, it seems like victim to you means like something that's like. Also, I forgot this part. They don't call it BDSM at all in the movie. They call it erotica.
Oh, yeah, that was they use that term very confusingly.
What? This is not, they're like, when you're into erotica. And I'm like, this is not erotica.
What?
It's not. Erotica is like any sexual, like
art.
Yeah. I'm like, it's not. I mean, like the movie could possibly, I mean, I don't consider the movie erotica, but the movie itself maybe could be. And the book it's based on is probably erotica.
Sure. It
is not erotica to participate in BDSM. That's not. I was like, what are you? Ooh. Anyway, so Dana Delany is just like repeatedly like, but there was a scene where after like they have a big confrontation and like the killers come after them and they get away, and they're at the police station like giving their statements or whatever, and Dana Delany is in the waiting room while cops do a really terrible job of interviewing women who have been abused, and she's like literally like looking around and is like disgusted by these women and is like, I will never be one of these women again, and leaves and dumps her partner or dumps Elliot or whatever. Fine. Like, yeah, I don't care if you dump him. But she's like, I saw those women there, and I was like, I'll never be weak like that again. And I was like, great job, you dumb bitch. You didn't do a single fucking thing to help any of these goddamn women. You're saying you're not going to be a victim, but you're watching these people be like, oh, I just got beat up by my husband, and I have no money and no recourse and nowhere to go. And she's like, I never want to be like you, so I'm leaving. And I'm like, I don't know, offer her $1,000 if you have a bunch of money. Like, give her money. Like, I am not saying, it's just the fact that she's like, I'm better than those women. I'm better than that. And I'm like, you're not. You're not better than that. You're in a better situation. You have more privilege than these women.
Right.
You're not above them, though. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm a dominant because I never want to be smacked around by someone. I'm sorry. That's not how it works. Like, you don't, like, choose to be a victim. Like, that's not, oh, I hate that fucking narrative so much. But I was like, you're not offering.
No, but you do choose to be not a victim.
Exactly. Like, oh my God. But like the fact that like she has a resort where she like employs people to like do things. I'm like, you could literally have offered that woman a job. Or you could have done anything to help her situation. You could have been like, hey, I know you feel like you don't have anywhere, but here's $100, get yourself a hotel, you know, and then it's like up to that person what they want to do with their life. It's not as simple. I'm not saying it's as simple as that. It's just like the fact that she's like watching these women who the implication is they're all like victims of like abuse. And she's just like disgusted with them and leaves because she doesn't want to be associated with them. And I'm like, you're a piece of shit.
Well, I had I don't disagree.
Yeah. I mean, it just annoyed me how she pushes the empowerment narrative. And then she walks away from women that are hurting and is like disgusted.
Yeah. I mean, it's middle-class white feminism.
It is, yeah.
So.
But I was just
she's probably a Republican. Now, you know.
Oh, totally.
In 94, she would have been, what, I don't know.
A centrist or something.
Yeah, so a Democrat. But.
Yeah.
Personal responsibility.
Well, what was you said you had a different take. What was
I was just going to say in that scene, it doesn't change the outcome or the overall problem that you identified, but I took it as a trauma. It's like a PTSD response.
Yeah.
She's triggered, but then she turns it, which is a real thing. People do that, obviously,
absolutely.
right? You know, like, oh, I'm never going to be like them again.
Yeah.
You know, and that because you have been there, and so and it triggers you, and you're like, okay, never again.
Right.
But if it stays there,
correct.
If you don't,
But that's I think,
and it's clearly depicted in a way that it's like, okay, this is systemic.
Correct. Yes. Right. But I think what annoyed me the most about it was that she was like all like, oh, I have to leave, and like I'm like and she was like very visibly uncomfortable. She's like, I need to get out of here. I'm like, yeah,
you got to remove yourself from that situation.
Exactly, totally understandable. But the fact that she was like, when she's recounting it, she's not saying like, I got really overwhelmed and I couldn't handle it, and it reminded me of all these places I'd been, and I just needed to leave. She's like, I saw these women, and I was like, I'm never gonna be one of them again. And I'm like, okay, cool. So you're blaming people who have been exactly where you're claiming you have been in the past and telling them it's their fault.
More or less, yeah.
And so I was like, I don't care about you anymore. Like, this has made me not care about you as a character, as a person. I mean, you already suck as a dom. I can already tell you're not a good one.
Well, and all the backstory, you're like, what?
Right. And there's all this, like...
That again, it only muddies the water.
Correct.
Like, you didn't need any of that. You don't need anybody's fucking backstory. Like, if I don't care about them in the presence,
right,
then you're doing a bad job of storytelling.
Right. And I don't like dream sequences, and I don't like flashbacks. I don't like any of it because they feel like they're done usually very poorly.
Fair enough.
And they're usually done for lack of an ability to actually storytell. Like, you have to.
Yeah, they're shortcuts usually.
Yeah. Same with
and not functionally very useful in that regard, or not used not well.
I feel the same way about monologues at the beginning or end of a movie.
How about when they're bookended?
When they're bookended, I don't like them. They're the worst when they're either just at the beginning or just
agreed.
at the end.
Yeah.
No reason for that whatsoever. And it'll always be something that's just like, and that's how that happened. And you're like, there was no reason for that fucking voiceover. It's like 2 sentences, and you're like, you didn't need that. That was so weird.
Secretary doesn't.
Yes, but it does it throughout the entire movie. So it does.
Okay.
It does. I promise you.
I forget.
But that's the only time I accept. Like when they are like, here's what, and it's only from like Lee's perspective, and it's all like her being like, and I think it's interesting because like I think it gives like it does have flashbacks. I will say that, but when she's voicing over the flashback, and it's when she cuts herself too deep, and she says,
"Oh yeah,
I don't know how I did that. I'm normally so careful." And I was like, "Oh, that's good," because the way that they're not just showing you the flashback, they're showing you that she was like, that's weird that I almost killed myself. I wonder how that happened. So you realize that she's like kind of still not really in that place where she's accepting what she did. You know, I feel like it's really heavy-handed and like it's giving you a lot in that. So like and again, I'm not saying it's the best, but I'm only okay with monologues when they're throughout the whole movie. Cuz then I'm like okay.
Blade Runner? Or Dune?
Oh God, please. No. Oh God.
Please, no. God, no.
But yeah, Exit to Eden I was disappointed because I think I was like,
yeah. There's nothing about it that's actually funny.
Yeah, it's not funny, which is fine. I didn't expect it to be funny, and I didn't necessarily. I expected it to be a lot campier than it was, and I expected it to show like silly BDSM. I didn't expect it to show just like
semi-serious,
but
enough that it's problematic.
Incorrect. Yeah, and then not really be funny and just have.
So
like, yeah, it made me. I was really disappointed. Like this is the first thing we've watched for the pod that I'm like, oh my God, I'm really, really disappointed.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm just like, oh man. Mm-hmm. Because I was like,
well, we did have a lot of anticipation.
It's true, yeah. But I expected because I'd seen some of it before, so I thought my memory of it was really good, and I was like, oh, from being 11 and seeing part of this on TV, I know exactly what to expect from this film. Turns out, I was wrong.
So I remember this coming out, and me being, I would have been in my late teens. When it came out?
Yeah, you're like 19.
Thanks.
I was 9.
So mixed feelings. I'm like, ooh, titillating, but also like, oh, this is obviously gonna be bad. I had a huge crush on Dana Delany from watching China Beach. Mm-hmm. So excited about that.
She voiced Lois Lane on the Superman cartoon.
That's great.
Tim Daly was Superman.
Oh, right on. Tim Daly. I'd watch that erotica.
Oh God.
So I was I was surprised, and my expectations exceeded in that.
Dana Delany.
You get some full frontal of Dana Delany and a lot of breast play.
Breast play
with the fucking butter and cinnamon.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about the weird butter shit where he puts butter on her tit. No,
and cinnamon.
Butter and cinnamon. No, thank you. I don't want that.
That's how they do down in New Orleans.
I'm like, what? What the fuck?
Take it from this guy from Australia.
Also, I like the fact that he brought a bag of something, and you were like, "Oh, are these
beignets from Café Dumont?"
And it was fucking croissants. It's like, why? It was croissants.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Well,
because they're French.
I mean, yes, but it's just funny to me, like New Orleans. I've never
famous for croissants. Well, in the 90s, they were rare still.
That's fair.
You could only get them at the French Quarter in New Orleans and Quebec.
And Quebec. Oh, I see. Okay.
Little known fact.
Today I learned.
Baton Rouge.
Yeah, that's all I really have to say about Exit to Eden.
Yeah,
it was like, wah, wah, wah.
it did. Dan Aykroyd's character in this did make me want to rewatch Dragnet.
Yeah.
The 90s one with Tom Hanks and him. So,
which was like, I think this character was based on that character, if I read the trivia
well, the
correctly.
trivia said his delivery is very similar to his character in Dragnet, which is true. That's why it reminded me of that. Oh, and on that note, I just watched a YouTube series produced by the channel. It's called Skip Intro and he produced it last year when shit was blowing up after George Floyd and all the protests around. Police murdering a lot of black people. Mm-hmm. Not the first time, but, we had lots of protests. And so this guy did he did a series on propaganda.
Yeah.
I
saw some of that.
The first one, it starts with Dragnet, which I didn't know this, the original TV show in the 50s, which was produced with the LAPD.
Oh, wow.
So it was like this trade-off where they got real stories from the police, and the police got censorship. They got veto power over the scripts. So anyway, very interesting series, I thought. It talks about the origins there. You talk about The Wire and The Shield and Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was a really great series. If you want, I think a funnier, campier, intentionally campier depiction of a BDSM relationship, High Anxiety by Mel Brooks, where the late great Cloris Leachman and Harvey Korman have a clandestine, hilarious.
Yeah. You showed me that scene. You were like, watch this. You'll like this. Also, there's a scene where like...
I feel an underrated Mel Brooks movie.
That's fair. I've never seen it.
Most of his movies are overrated, in my opinion.
There's a scene at the beginning when Elliot's like getting ready where like Joyce Brothers...
Oh, yeah, I remember her.
Is describing like the life of a dominatrix. And I'm like, okay, I wrote down like Joyce Brothers is describing my dream career.
Yeah,
she's like, people pay them. She's like, they make more money than I make to be able to do it. And I'm like, shut up.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely
I know.
a stereotype. Like,
It's true.
They get to lie in bed. They don't have to go to work, and they make more money than me.
Right, yeah. I like how when people...
Also, do you remember that was one, and then there's like, one of the workshop scenes is like, in the future, the female will be able to do whatever she wants in a relationship. Like, there kept being these, like,
I know.
the way things are going.
I know, yeah. Also, the workshop where it's literally just the tail end of her being like, in the future, women will be more assertive sexually, which I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And that's it. And
Something
then everyone's like,
yeah.
And they're like, and that's all for today's class. I was like, oh, this reminds me of the time that you and I went to the Lovers Playground. Is that what it was?
No, it was
the
pleasure chest.
Pleasure
I can't say it. Pleasure chest.
The pleasure chest in
Chicago.
And we were there. We were in Chicago to see a show.
Yeah, we had gone to see a band perform.
The X, right?
Yeah.
We'd gone to see the X perform, which was a great show. And while we were like waiting, we dropped into the.
I thought it was afterwards.
Maybe it was, but I think it was before because whatever.
That makes more sense.
So we dropped in there and we were just like looking at stuff and they were.
This happened to be a CBD.
Yeah. CBT. They were like, "Oh, we're going to teach a class on cock and ball torture,
cognitive behavioral therapy."
And so we were there, and they were like teaching us, like we were like eavesdropping on this class, and we were like so excited to like. And then we picked out a few items, and when we were paying for them, they told us we were such a cute couple. Which we were like,
yeah, they were really sweet to us.
Yeah, it reminded me of that, like walking, like just we happened to show up at the
right
when they were talking about cock and ball torture. We were like, yes! We got there just in time.
Right.
And we were trying to play it so cool. We were like so close. We didn't want to sit in on the class, even though it was like,
I mean, it was a relatively small. It was a relatively small space, right? Like
it was a small space.
In that, like the workshop was happening just in a corner of the retail space,
and
it wasn't like in any way. I
think it was like a free thing, but I think both of us were like way too like baby town frolics to actually like say that we wanted to sit in. So we were just like perusing as close to the class
just getting
as we could.
Closer and closer.
Oh. And then I said, no, the word you're looking for is tentacles. The end. Bye.
All right, thanks for listening. It's been great.
Ultimately, yeah. So Exit to Eden is a really difficult film to find.
Yeah.
And I think that's because there is no demand to watch it.
Which turns out is understandable.
Yeah, turns out
completely reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was just too. It was hard after a certain point. I was just like, I don't know how to stay interested in this movie. It was really difficult. Yeah. Also, I woke up this morning and was like, it's Wednesday. It's not Wednesday.
Not true.
It's not. So
objectively false.
Yeah. Not even
nowhere in the world. Nowhere in the world right now is it Wednesday.
Not even while you're listening to this will it be Wednesday.
Well, you can't guarantee that.
If you release this goddamn thing on a Wednesday just to spite me, I will.
I mean, you just can't control when people.
Absolutely nothing.
You can't control when people listen to things.
Fuck.
Mm-hmm.
God damn it.
I sometimes listen to podcasts on Wednesdays, even though they were released days, or weeks earlier.
That's just weird. Not to kink shame.
I mean, that's just me.
That was such a disgusting burp. It just sounded like it came from the depths of
hell.
Oh,
I was gonna say if you'd much rather, if you want to see Rosie O'Donnell in something, watch A League of Their Own, or the Flintstones.
I've never seen A League of Their Own.
I wonder what I would think now. It was such a big deal. I would watch it now just for Gina Davis, which is probably why.
I'd watch anything. For
probably
Gina
why
Davis.
I watched it in the first place.
Yeah.
Penny Marshall.
Oh man.
Flintstones. We tried to watch that.
We tried to watch it. I made you stick around until they threw the newspaper into the yard and it sank into the grass, which as a kid slayed me so hard. I was like weeping from laughing, and I was like, I just want to see that part, because like we watched like 15 minutes of it and we were like, this is so painful.
Oh God!
And I was
Didn't we watch like half an hour?
Yeah, I was saying, you were like,
minutes?
I can't do this. And I was like, I just want to get to the part where the newspaper gets thrown. And I was like, I just want to see if I find it funny. And I did not.
Weird.
And so that was really disappointing.
Iman, I'd rather see in The Undiscovered Country. Is that the one she's in?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not a great role either, but...
I mean, no, but Jesus Christ. This was just weird.
At least she's covered in fur most of the time. Furs, excuse me.
Yeah.
Even though isn't she like a shapeshifter?
Yes.
Turns out.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes.
Spoiler.
Yes.
Spoilers for Star Trek 6. 4.
That came out in 1992 or whatever.
Was it even that late? Anyway.
No, Star Trek 4 is the one with the whales.
Okay.
Star Trek 6 is
Journey
the
Home.
one
Okay. I just can't remember which side of the V the I was on. Okay, anyway.
I'm sorry.
Dan Akroyd.
I'm like, look. If you're going to do anything around Star Trek, you can't get it wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to see Dan Akroyd, you watch Driving Miss Daisy.
Oh, God, is he in that? Oh, he plays her son or something. I do have a confession. I do have a confession to make. That sounded so horrible. I was trying to do like Transylvania, and it did not come out sounding that way.
You can just say Romanian.
Okay. I mean, I was trying to sound like Dracula.
Oh.
Right, yeah. So it did not come out that way. I said it, and I was like, this is not, this is sounding so bad. Okay. I do, and this is embarrassing to admit, and I do not know why this is the case. I often confuse Dan Akroyd and John Goodman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If someone says Dan Akroyd, I will just assume there's
not John Belushi.
No. Nope. I will think of John Goodman. I forget John Goodman's name, so everyone's just like when someone will say Dan Akroyd, I forget Dan Akroyd exists.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just as a person, no offense. And then someone will say John Goodman, and I'll be like, and I'm like, who's that? But if someone says Dan Akroyd, I think they're talking about John Goodman.
I don't really. I'm pretty lukewarm about him as an actor.
Who?
Dan Akroyd.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really have any.
Like, especially anything post, like, Ghostbusters.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't realize he was, like, neurodivergent until...
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, recently, until, like, just...
Which
is interesting to me, not because... Like, I don't know. It's just like, oh, he's had such a, like, affluent career. So that's like really, I don't know. I just think it's cool.
I think he diversified early.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kudos to him.
Yeah.
I mean, those old SNL sketches with him are pretty funny.
Yeah.
Another anecdote. This is a personal anecdote. So I worked for a summer at the Experience Music Project, and it was the first summer it was open in Seattle. Mm-hmm. And so they had a big gala concert. Mm-hmm. He was there for some. I didn't go to the concert. I was like working next door. You know, I was working. The concert was going on near the museum, so gotcha. I was in the museum. I think when it was happening. Anyway, so then they would constantly play footage from the concert inside the museum afterwards.
Yeah. Okay.
So I got to hear him introduce a band this way. He would say, with a solid bass in roots, rhythm and blues, here's Blink 182. Oh my God. What?
That's funny. That's humor. That's humor.
Humor. I have it too. All right. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Yeah. Exit to Eden. That was the closest I've gotten.
Miss Priscilla, I'm ready to be punished.